First of all, in reference to the Missouri game, I would say they were better than advertised. I did know, speaking with Coach Odom during the course of the summer, I could tell that their football program was acutely aware of where we were at, and so their preparation, any thoughts of us going in and being overlooked were not accurate at all. I knew that wasn't going to be the case, and I think they're going to win a lot of football games. How they fare in the SEC, I don't know, but I think they're excellent. I think the quarterback's better than advertised. My sense is he's going to be in the conversation for the Heisman Trophy, and we played a Heisman Trophy winner a couple of years ago, and I don't think this guy's too far off. There was it was going to be a game that we were going to need to play. I don't want to say air-free, but pretty doggone air-free. I do think we cleaned up the penalties, so I was pleased about that. We didn't have a lot of self-inflicted wounds, but they're a good football team and they're ready to play. And I thought at times, defensively at the beginning part of the game, we were really competitive. And then as the game went along, I thought we lost our edge defensively, and there's a lot of reasons for that. And it kind of flipped offensively in the in the first half. I thought we were struggling offensively, and then we got some things going in the second half. And so as a result, what we've got to be able to do is put those two back to back, and that'll be important this week. As far as injuries, I do think Josh Harshman will be out for a significant amount of time. We'll get some more information today concerning his MRI, but a pretty significant knee injury. We're certainly hoping for the best for Josh, and that we can have him back as we go. Moving forward, Wofford's 2-0 right now. Whoops. Wofford's 2-0. They were a 10-win football team that went deep in the playoffs last year. Coach Conklin's a new head coach, but he's got a real familiarity with Wofford. He had coached there before, and also he hails from Gillette. He was at Pittsburgh, and our defensive staff did a professional visit there, so he's a prince of a guy and a heck of a coach. And as he starts out, he's 2-0 as a head football coach. Offensively, they have not changed a whole lot through the years. They've had the same offensive coordinator for maybe 20, 30 years. I mean, it's been there a long time, and we have got a great deal of experience coaching against that scheme. And so they'll play two quarterbacks. They're very creative in what they do with their option scheme. They have answers to what you throw up against them. Defensively, they operate out of a three-down look. Big, strong guys up front, some 300-pounders. Their secondary is always in position, which gives you an indication that they're well coached. And so anytime you play a team that's undefeated, we have a big opportunity and a big challenge for us. It's going to be important that we lick our wounds a little bit. There's no doubt this last game was a tough physical game on us, but I've always believed this competition brings out the best in you. If it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. And we're going to move forward as a football team. So that's kind of where we're at. Any questions that anybody might have?
Craig mentioned, the defense maybe losing its edge a little bit as the game last week went on. It certainly got wore down. What needs to happen to maybe get some of that edge back? And obviously, it's a different scheme you're going against.
Sure.
So does that maybe be a spark or a help, I guess, moving forward?
Well, it's a challenge because it's a different scheme. A couple things that I think we did not do as well as what we could have. Missouri tempoed us a couple times, and they had not shown that. There was a lot of unknowns we didn't know going into the game. They certainly changed and did some things. They looked deep into what Oregon had done to us. They had a complex game plan that they had not shown, and because they didn't have to show it. So I think that that hurt us a little bit. Now we were horrendous on third down, and then what happened, Robert, was the residual of staying on the field. And I saw Logan Wilson played 46 plays in the first half. That's a whole game in the first half. And so we've got to be better at getting off the field. We've got to be better at staying on the field. And so I think that had an impact. You always get concerned about you know, a well-fortified team like Missouri is in the SEC, their depth, and I think that began to show. That's just a fact, and so we've got to build more depth. We talked about playing some younger players a little bit earlier so we can stay fresher and to be able to get off the field. And then, you know, what began to occur, Robert, was you know, our tackling, our angles, bursts of the ball, where at the beginning part of the game we were sharp and crisp, and we were really challenged there. I thought defensively, you know, we had the turnover right away, which we answered. I think there was another time the ball was about midfield, we answered. You know, it was 3-0. And then I think the drive that really hurt was a 97-yard drive. And some of those things were the quarterback making some plays, some of the things we've got to improve. And so, you know, as coaches, we've got a mature staff, but we need to make sure our defensive guys are well positioned this week and they're playing fast.
Coach, you mentioned the Wofford offense. I think it was like 670 yards last week. Just what do they do so well that you guys have to be ready for?
Well, they do what they do. They have elements of option, elements of shotgun, quarterback under center, you know, zone schemes. They can throw the ball while they don't throw the ball a ton. All those things are unique, and they pose a lot of challenges.
Again, is that similar to Air Force? Is it a similar option scheme that you've seen before, or is it really kind of unique, I guess?
You know, there's similarities when you kind of group them. The one advantage, I shouldn't say an advantage, but I think it is somewhat of an advantage. You know, we have played Air Force, we have played New Mexico, and while those two offenses have some similarities, there's some differences, but they're certainly more similar. So it's not like with some of our older players, they have not seen those type of schemes where, you know, when you are maybe operating in another league like the Big Ten, you never get attacked like that on an ongoing basis. And so we think that's going to be helpful. What's going to be important that we come up, and our coaches I know have been, and we've all been grinding like crazy, making sure that we got a good game plan on both sides of the football and then the kicking game.
Coach, how concerned are you about second straight game with no sacks out of your D-line? And then I guess kind of B to that would be is how much did the quick passing game of the last two opponents play into that?
2 points, acutely concerned. When you have those numbers of passes and you don't have a sack, I think you got to take a look in the mirror and say, okay, well, what the heck are we doing? I think we've got a pretty good presence of rushers, and for us not to have a sack or not even enough hurries or hitting. Now, I thought we were better against Missouri, quite frankly. We were in the backfield a little bit more than we were against Wazoo. But we've got to improve there. And we had a long discussion yesterday. We didn't want to take up too much time because while Wofford throws the ball, their offensive scheme is, I don't want to say 180 degrees different than what we've seen, but it's significantly different. So we addressed all that stuff, we booked it, and said, let's get going and moving on to Wofford. So concerned, needs to be addressed. We'll need to pressure the quarterback here, but they don't throw near as much as what these last two, at least they haven't.
Coach, are you trying to work anybody else into tight end now that you mentioned Josh might be out and Tyree Mayfield's your only guy right now?
Yeah, we're Jackson Marquette, who's a freshman, is going to get some reps in there. We're in hopes. I spent some time with the sports medicine staff today. You know, Austin's moving around a little bit better. I would still say it's doubtful, but we'll get those guys back sometime before the year's over. So we're in a little bit of a pinch right now, but Jackson was a guy that's got good size and good speed, and so we'll move forward with that guy. Yes, sir.
After coming off games against Washington State in Missouri, is there ever worry about making sure you take this Wofford seriously?
I think a lot of that comes down to an attitude of a coaching staff. That's one of the reasons why we have coach on our shirt, and that's not a smart aleck comment, but I mean, we need to take ownership of that. I do say one of the advantages we have is you've got a whole lot of guys in that room that spent a lot of years in FCS football. And if anybody has an illusion, when you watch the tape and you see maybe not 70,000 people in the stands, we lived in that arena for a lot of years, and there's a lot of NFL players that have come out of that league. There's a lot of NFL guys that have played at Wofford, and then I think a case in point, you flip on the game tape against South Carolina last year, and they're scrapping around with them, or you see them play against Clemson. And so we're making points of that. I'd like to think that our players have enough confidence in our coaching staff when we say that they have good players and they have really good coaches, that we need to be bringing our A game to give us a chance to win. And so we'll address that. I don't think we can overstate it, because that almost undersells what type of football program they have. We're going to be real matter of fact with our players, and we've got to. Quite frankly, I'm more concerned about having 2 tough losses back to back, and the resiliency of our football team to lick our wounds and get back in the fight. That's I think we got to look at that. We not only were beat, emotionally after the game, we got beat up, and football's a physical game. We got to get healed up here in a hurry.
You mentioned ownership, similar question. You mentioned ownership, and then you go back to the unknowns that you guys weren't prepared for with Missouri. Can those unknowns propel you forward in some sense as a coach and as a football team? Will you be better prepared next time for the unknowns? Is that possible?
Great question, because every game there's some unknowns, but I can tell you, we were searching last week. I mean, we were going through everything. Because they didn't have to tip their hand. They were, Missouri was very, very vanilla offensively in the spring game, which was on the SEC network. And then the first game, it was, they did a couple things. I think it was, they knew they could get after Tennessee Martin. So a lot of the things that we were just trying to throw some darts and try to cobble together what things the Dallas Cowboys had done and things like that. And I think some things that we were right on, but the schemes that we've seen, I think we know offensively what they have done. They've got a proven track record that they'll look. They've been creative, but there's a track record of what they've done offensively. We do have an idea. Some things, while the Citadel game is a little bit different, simply because they were a triple option team. BMI is more traditional, so we could get some beats on that, but we looked at both games, so I think we're going to be more prepared as far as our game planning.
Coaching, any concern at all about, you mentioned the team is beat up physically, about them knowing that there's a bye week coming? Anything that they might be looking ahead toward that?
No, I think everybody wants to win, and if anything, the bye week says, football's a real physical game, and we've gone through a grinder here. And some guys, I think, you're going to play hurt if you know that, okay, we got to figure out what we got to do to win. Whatever we got to do to win, we got to do that. We got to do whatever we can do to win, and then that next week will alter what we're doing in practice. And so I think, if anything, not to say that they are looking forward to the bye week. I think it's a motivation. Say, you know what, we're 1-2. We got to do what we can to get to 1-0 here and get to 2-2. So that's kind of our thought process.
Coach, you mentioned getting some younger guys on defense on the field to keep things fresh last week. When you look back at the tape, were there any things that stood out? Seeing some of the younger guys get out there.
Well, guys, Andrew Winger played a lot of snaps in the first half, and maybe getting Elijah Halliburton out there, Braden Smith out there a little bit. We were looking at, even though he was a younger guy, to Adam Pinnable to play him more. And the other thing that occurred was, with their tempo, it was hard to get some subs in, and they utilized that well, and kudos to them. And so I just think we our rep count got out of whack, and that showed in the second half. And so that you live and you learn.
Craig, I know, how's any update on Nico for this week? I know you also came short on defensive ends as well. Any updates on any of those guys as of now?
Right. We think KP will be back. Kevin Prosser will be back. We're in hopes that Trey Woods will be back, so that'll be helpful. Concerning Nico, I would say it would be doubtful. I think certainly him resting all weekend have helped. We'll know a little bit more, but those ribs were bruised pretty significantly, and for a running back, sometimes that takes some time. So that's just kind of letting you know, don't hold my feet to the fire. I've told you some guy isn't going to play, and the next thing you know, he goes out there and plays. But I just, the information that we've been given, and I'm being forthright with you, a lot of head coaches, they hide behind a lot of veils. We haven't operated like that, and I just don't think Nico will be in position to play this week.
With the chance to see Bigelow and Valley a little bit more last week, is your confidence level in them as far as, are they ahead or where you thought they would be?
I think a little bit ahead. Javon, though, however, he fumbled, and that was disappointing. I think we need to play X a little bit more, which we will. We had an extensive conversation and offensive staff meeting about that. And those two guys are good players, and like I said, we're in hopes that we'll get Nico back. Certainly Nico's, he's a captain, and he's a leader of our team, and he's an emotional leader as well. So that element has been sorely missed. But, I think both those two guys have got some really good talent. And, it was I thought Javon's running out there and against a fortified SEC team, and it wasn't like he was backing down. And he'll learn from the fumble, and some of the pass protections were challenging, and I thought they answered the bell there. So good experience. Unfortunately, we came away with some good experience, but a loss, and so I think those guys will benefit from it, though, and I feel comfortable with them.
Coach, you're a guy who works with the kickers a lot. Seeing Cooper get a career-long 51-yarder, was that pretty rewarding? And I guess what sort of growth have you seen from him?
Great mental intensity, because I was a little bit concerned watching him in pregame warm-ups. He was off. I mean, he was left, right. I think it's a compliment to him, his mental intensity, and we felt confident giving him a shot there. There was a little bit of a wind, but not much. I was checking the flags, and for him to drill it, I think is a good thing, and sends a message. I thought he kicked the ball off well, and so in each year he's gotten a little bit stronger physically, but more so that's you got to have ice running through your veins, and I've been really impressed. He's a competitive player.
Coach, are you pleased with Tyler's progress as he continues to, took a few more shots down the field a little bit and hit a little bit better accuracy this game?
He got better. He's got to improve. The other thing I was pleased with, he hung in the pocket and took a couple shots and released the ball, and so there's areas for him to improve, which he will, but that was not an easy environment to go into. I know he's young, but he'll learn from that, and so he made progress. Now it's going to be important that he makes continual improvement. This next week, he's got to have a good week of practice and then go out and compete. I also thought he managed things well. His presence in the huddle was better, and that's all part of the maturation process.
Coach, the last two games you really haven't been able to flip the field like you probably would want punting the ball. Is there something wrong with Tim, or just not making contact? How concerned are you about that?
Well, I'm concerned about that. He's got to punt the ball better, and we're going to continue to work on that. Quite frankly, I was a little bit more concerned about their returns. Sometimes if you don't punt the ball well, you may not get the exact punt that you're looking for, but they're not returning it. And so we did some things to try to curb opportunities for returns, but Tim's got to hit the ball better. He can show what he can do, and he needs to be more consistent there.